I thought ambition was everything. For as long as I can remember, my life has been about climbing ladders. Grades, internships, promotions. Every success was just the next stepping stone to something bigger. I thrived on it. When I met Daniel, he was different from anyone I'd dated. He was warm, easy to talk to, and genuinely seemed to listen. He didn't try to impress me with big titles or luxury plans. He was a software developer at a mid-sized firm, made enough to live comfortably, and had no burning desire to scale up his career. At the time, I found it refreshing, stable, grounding. We married after 2 years, and for the first few years it worked. He handled most of the house chores without me asking, made dinner when I worked late, remembered the little things like my favorite coffee order. He was proud of me when I got promoted, always telling people how smart and driven I was. But somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing it as stability. I started seeing it as stagnation. At work, I was surrounded by couples who seemed powerful, people whose spouses were executives, entrepreneurs, or working towards something big. When we went to company events, Daniel would be polite and friendly, but I caught myself cringing when people asked what he did, and he'd say, "I'm a developer, been at the same company 8 years. No flashy title. No hunger for more." One night, after a networking dinner, I finally said it out loud. "Don't you ever want to do more?" I asked him while we brushed our teeth. He looked confused. "Do more in what sense?" "You're talented, Daniel. You could lead a team, start your own company, get into management." He shook his head, smiling faintly. "I like what I do. I don't need to run a company to feel accomplished. I like having time to cook, read, spend time with you." "Isn't that the point?" I didn't answer. But in my head, I was already thinking, no, that's not the point. Things shifted after that. Slowly, but they did. I started staying out later with coworkers, accepting invitations to after-hours drinks with executives and managers. Daniel never complained. He'd just say, "Be safe," and ask if I'd eaten. I noticed the difference when I talked about work. He'd listen, but there was no competitiveness, no fire to match mine. When I told him I was up for a director position, he hugged me and said, "That's amazing. You've worked hard for it." But in my head, I thought, why can't you have something like that too? Then came the annual corporate retreat. 3 days at a resort in Napa Valley. All expenses paid, a mix of seminars and networking parties. Spouses were welcome, but Daniel said he'd rather stay home. "It's your work crowd," he said. "You'll have more fun without worrying about me being bored." I didn't push. Part of me was relieved. At the retreat, I felt electric, surrounded by people who spoke my language, who wanted to climb and conquer. I found myself gravitating toward Alex, a senior VP from another branch. He was charming, ambitious, exactly the kind of man I thought fit with my world. We didn't cross any physical lines, but the flirtation was there. Long conversations over wine, subtle touches on the arm and side jokes. It was intoxicating. When I got home, Daniel had cleaned the house, stocked the fridge, and left a bouquet of lilies on the kitchen counter with a note, "Missed you. Hope you had fun." I smiled, but there was a hollowness in my chest. Over the next few months, my connection with Alex grew, mostly over work, messages, and the occasional dinner when he was in town. I told myself it was harmless. Daniel and I still laughed sometimes, still went to the farmer's market on Saturdays, still had our routines. But I'd also started to feel detached. I saw his contentment as small-minded. His quiet routines felt boring compared to the rush of career wins. When the director promotion came through, Daniel took me out to celebrate. He made a reservation at the same restaurant we went to on our first anniversary. Midway through dinner, he looked at me for a long time and said, "You've changed. You're somewhere else lately." I laughed it off. "I'm just focused on work. You know how it is." He nodded, but there was something in his eyes I couldn't read. A month later, Daniel told me he was going on a week-long solo hiking trip. He'd never done anything like that before. I was surprised, but I figured maybe he was finally taking time for himself. When he got back, he seemed lighter. Still the same Daniel, but more at peace somehow. He'd asked fewer questions about my late nights. He stopped waiting up for me. At first, I thought it was good. Less pressure, less friction. And the distance grew. He wasn't cold. He wasn't cruel. Just absent. One Friday evening, I came home late from a work dinner and found a note on the kitchen counter. It was short. I think we've grown into different people. I still care about you, but I can't be the husband you want. And I don't think you want the one I am. I've moved out. Please don't try to contact me. This is final. I sat there reading it over and over, expecting to feel rage or heartbreak. Instead, I felt a dull shock, like I had just been cut loose from something I didn't realize was holding me together. He vanished. No calls. No emails. His social media went dark. Mutual friends said they hadn't seen him. My best friend admitted she'd heard from him once, just to let her know he was okay, but he asked her not to pass along anything to me. First month, I threw myself into work. It was easier to drown in 14-hour days than to think about the empty house. The second month, I started to notice how quiet it was without him. No coffee brewing in the morning when I came downstairs. No music playing in the kitchen while he cooked. No one asking me if I'd eaten lunch. By the fourth month, I caught myself looking for him in crowds. 6 months after he left, I saw him. At a bookstore of all places. He was with a woman. She was striking in a natural way. No flashy designer clothes. No corporate stiffness. They were laughing, and he looked happy. Effortlessly happy. I froze between the shelves. He glanced up, saw me, and for a split second, our eyes met. He smiled politely, the way you might at a stranger, and then turned back to the woman. I didn't approach him. I couldn't. 4 months after that, I got the news from a mutual acquaintance. Daniel was married. Married. There were photos on someone's Facebook. A small wedding in the mountains, surrounded by greenery. He looked more alive than I'd ever seen him. She looked at him like he was the only person in the world. That night, I sat in my living room, staring at my perfectly organized, perfectly empty life. I had the title, the salary, the respect at work, and not a single person to share it with. I've tried dating since then. Men in my world, men outside of it. Nothing sticks. Some are intimidated by my job. Others are ambitious but selfish, never making me feel safe the way Daniel did. And the truth I can't tell anyone is this. I didn't leave him. Not officially. But I pushed him out with my constant judgment, my inability to see value in a kind, steady man who was happy without chasing more. I thought I was aiming higher. I didn't realize I was trading love for loneliness. Daniel didn't fight, didn't beg, didn't explode. He just quietly stepped out of my life, rebuilt his own, and found someone who saw him as enough. And I'm here, watching from the sidelines, with nothing but promotions and paychecks to keep me company.